Heya Cryptozens, it's 10 p.m. Pacific time. The date is October 21st, 2022. Welcome back to the Crypto Overnighter. My name is Nikodemus, and I will be your host as we take a nightly look at the crypto, NFT, and metaverse space and the industry that surrounds it. And keep in mind, nothing in this show should ever be considered financial advice. So, after several days of starting our show off on news from abroad, let's kick this Friday off right here at home in the United States. Because I woke up to some news that is sure to ripple, pun intended, throughout the crypto regulation space. In case you haven't guessed, I'm talking about the Security Exchange Commission's case against Ripple Labs. Well worth the fight, Ripple Labs counsel said. So what's going on here? First thing I saw on Twitter this morning was a tweet put out by Ripple General Counsel Stuart Alderoty. And this tweet was confirmation of a momentous victory Ripple Labs scored over the SEC. Because after 18 months and 6 court orders, the Hinman documents are finally in the hands of counsel from Ripple Labs. Now, don't go expecting an avalanche of information about what's in there. Not quite yet. Because they're holding the contents of those documents pretty close to the vest, and that's at the insistence of the SEC. So no big reveal yet, but we'll get back to that. Now, nevertheless, Alderoty seemed pleased. He said, quote, "It was well worth the fight to get them." He continued, "I've always felt good about our legal arguments, and I feel even better now. I always felt bad about the SEC's tactics, and I feel even worse about them now." Now, the Hinman documents have proven to be an important artifact in this case between the SEC and Ripple Labs, because these documents relate to a speech given by the former SEC Division Director William Hinman. And they're important because those documents talk about the status of Ethereum as far as SEC goes. And these are things like internal SEC emails and drafts of his speech. And the reason why it's important is because it was in his 2018 speech that he said Ethereum was not a security. Now, which, once that opinion is admitted into evidence as a legal fact, things are going to get interesting. And the SEC knows it, because it was in late September that the SEC attempted a second time to keep those documents under wraps. Now, we reported it here when Judge Annalisa Torres ruled against the SEC. Jeremy Hogan is a partner at Hogan & Hogan, and he sees this as where the rubber meets the road. He said these documents are, quote, "where we'll really see how strong each position is." And as he said, we won't have to wait long to see what's in there. These documents are scheduled to be made public by Monday, so the 24th at the latest, we should see something. Brad Garlinghouse is the CEO of Ripple Labs. He took to Twitter to vent about the SEC's tactics. He said, quote, "The SEC wants you to think it cares about disclosure, transparency, and clarity. Don't believe them. When the truth eventually comes out, the shamefulness of their behavior here will shock you." So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays with Judge Torres. Because remember, both Ripple Labs and the SEC have filed motions to have the judge render a summary decision. What that means is that both sides have told Judge Torres that they believe they have presented their entire case, that nothing else needs to be said, and they're ready to hear her decision. Now, the judge has been ruling steadily against the SEC. Is that an indication of what's to come? Because if so, this changes a lot. It lends a lot of strength to those who are saying that Ethereum is not a security. And the same goes for other Ethereum-like cryptos. Now, let's turn our attention from U.S. regulations to the UK, because there's an update to UK regulations, specifically on the subject of crypto advertisements and unregulated crypto providers. Andrew Griffith is their Financial Services and City Minister, and the amendments to his own bill he introduced on Friday have been welcomed by the crypto industry, especially since they deal with cryptos beyond just stablecoins. So what's in the bill now are measures that amend the existing laws to, quote, clarify that the powers relating to financial promotion and regulated activities can be relied upon to regulate crypto assets and activities relating to crypto assets. which is kind of a long way to say that advertisements for crypto assets will have to follow the same rules regarding advertisements just like any other financial product. Now, this is an amendment to the Financial Services and Markets Bill. We've talked about this on the show. And the UK crypto industry seems to be accepting the regulations because there's very little regulatory certainty in the UK where crypto is concerned. Now look at the EU and their markets and crypto assets framework. It's not perfect, but I think it's the best one so far. Nicholas Taylor is the head of public policy at the crypto exchange Luno. He said, quote, "The amendments enable the Treasury and the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, to introduce a full regulatory regime for crypto, a hugely positive step." Now, British regulators have been chomping at the bit to get to work regulating crypto. An industry is keenly interested in responsible crypto regulation. Last August, the Financial Conduct Authority published restrictions that they want to put on crypto ads ahead of this legislation. And it was to be expected that this bill would be heard in committee before November 3rd. That said, it may not happen by then, given the resignation of former PM Liz Truss. Next week's nomination of a replacement may signal a cascading change in other ministerial posts. Now going from England to their former colony, Hong Kong, because Hong Kong has been busy testing a CBDC, central bank digital currency. In fact, it was announced that they had recently completed the testing of a CBDC-backed stablecoin. That's right. So here's what's going on. Today, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, or HKMA, gave a presentation on Aurum. Now, Aurum is their retail central bank digital currency prototype. It's a system that was developed cooperatively between the HKMA and the Bank for International Settlements Innovation Hub. Now, keep in mind, the HKMA is a central bank, and the BIS, or Bank International Settlements, is a central bank organization. So keep that in mind. Let that be the lens that you look at this story through, because it can sound deceptively benign. Now, this Aurum system is unique, and it has to be to mirror the unique intricacies of the Hong Kong monetary system. Aurum bundles a retail e-wallet with a wholesale interbank system. This wallet is created at a local bank, and it goes on your smartphone. And there is a validator system there to prevent overissuance as well as double spending. So there's this intermediated retail CBDC that's used in the wallet. And then there are stablecoins that are issued by the bank that are backed by, they're pegged to those CBDCs, which sounds really weird, right? It does make a degree of sense because in this way, it mirrors Hong Kong's existing central bank system. Banknotes are issued by 3 separate, different financial institutions, commercial banks, and those banknotes are backed by the central bank. This means that the CBDC has the liability of the central bank, whereas the stablecoins become the liability of the issuing bank, while the central bank holds the backing assets. In their announcement, they said, quote, "Bringing CBDC-backed stablecoins to life has never been done before, and we therefore felt that doing so may supplement the growing body of research on private sector stablecoins. Indeed, what separates Aurum from private sector stablecoins is that Aurum's stablecoin balances are reconciled versus real-time gross settlements, balances of the issuing bank with the central bank." Now, according to the developers, this decoupling of the retail ledgers from wholesale ledgers makes it highly robust. And part of that comes from the fact that retail transactions are performed using aliases. So it's not private, it's anonymous. Now here's the difference. Anonymous means that everybody knows that somebody did something, but nobody knows who. Private means nobody knows that anybody did anything. So in this case, it would be clear that there are transactions occurring, but nobody knows for sure who made those transactions. Nobody, that is, except for the intermediary, because there's a middleman that performs the know your customer functions in this case. They're the ones who will see the real ID of the retail users. Now, as a measure of safety against commercial bank going under, any unspent balance is tracked anonymously through multiple transactions so that it doesn't get lost if the bank goes bust. Now, as cool as all of that might sound, you might be thinking, Nick, why the hate? Well, here's what's up. It's backed by a central bank digital currency, and I can't get away from that because that means the central bank can just unback it whenever it wants. It puts all of the control in the hands of the HKMA. That said, things might be getting a little better as far as crypto goes in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong is making moves to reclaim its place as a global hub of cryptocurrency. See, Hong Kong, everybody knows, is part of China, and China enacted a blanket ban on cryptocurrency last year. That said, Hong Kong is kind of in its own space in China. They're a special administrative region that can sort of get away with flouting some of the laws in effect on the mainland. So it sounds like they're considering just ignoring the law that's in place on mainland China and enacting their own bill to regulate crypto. Elizabeth Wong is the head of FinTech unit at the Securities and Futures Commission. The SFC is Hong Kong's combination of our Securities Exchange Commission and Commodity Futures Trading Commission. And Wong was speaking at a panel held by InvestHK when she said that one of the SFC's initiatives was to allow retail investors to directly invest in virtual assets. See, while crypto trading is verboten in mainland China, it still is kind of a thing in Hong Kong, mostly. So for the last 4 years, the position of the SFC is that crypto trading is for professional traders on central exchanges only. Only 7% of the city's population qualifies as an eligible investor, meaning their portfolio is worth at least $1 million. Wong said, quote, "We think this might actually be a good time to really think carefully about whether we will continue with this professional investor-only requirement." She also said that some other legal initiatives were in the works. One is a policy that they introduced back in January. This would let service providers sell some crypto-related derivatives. They've also been deciding whether retail investors should be allowed to invest in crypto-related exchange-traded funds. So why are they making this change? I think it's due to the brain drain that they've experienced recently, due in no small part to COVID lockdowns and a tense political environment. Because a couple of days ago, Hong Kong announced a $3.8 billion fund designed to bring foreign businesses back to the city. Now, going from growing crypto adoption in Hong Kong to a growing crypto crackdown in Turkey. Because as we talked about last night, Turkish President Erdogan's announcement of the e-Human project. Now, the idea is to use the blockchain to track educational and professional information about Turkish citizens, as well as provide job and education services. And again, that's a blockchain product. Today, Erdogan said that blockchain as a technology has its merits. That said, he feels, quote, gambling with crypto is a bad thing. He was speaking at Istanbul University during Blockchain Istanbul program put together by his Justice and Development Party. And he said that he wants to see Turkey become a producer in the digital assets world, not a consumer. And while Turkey as a country is adopting crypto pretty quickly, especially given the abysmal performance of the Turkish lira, the government of Turkey is not at all crypto-friendly. That's because, other than banning the use of crypto for payments, the Turkish crypto market remains largely unregulated. Now, some are seeing the possibility that Erdogan is at least a little open to the idea of cryptocurrency. He was talking about Turkey establishing their own presence in the metaverse. In fact, he attended a forum in the metaverse earlier this year. He said, quote, "I advise our young people to take part in the change of innovations such as blockchain technology and turn to larger and more fertile channels instead of turning to crypto money gambling that has no basis." Blockchain technology, he's much more positive about. He said distributed ledgers have, quote, potential to radically change existing supply chains. And he points out that blockchain can readily answer some questions such as intellectual property ownership. Now, the door is not 100% closed on crypto in Turkey. He said that the central bank is carrying out studies on crypto. Quote, "Our other ministries also follow this technology closely in their own areas of responsibility. We also closely monitor activities of our own private sector in blockchain technology." And I think we're going to leave it there for the night. I want to thank you, my listeners, because when you stop listening, I will stop talking. We'll see you tomorrow night.